spent a lot of time there.
You spent a lot of time in Australia.
Yeah, and I had a really successful career in Australia. So I suppose a lot of people see probably my success in Australia. How's that? Is that
Yeah,
better?
it looks great.
Cool. Mm-hmm.
Originally from Brighton, England, this turntablist and DJ has been touring around planet Earth spreading his gospel of breakbeats, funk, and getting the fuck down with incredible skills, awesome production, and a genuine flow that rallies dance floors into a frenzy, and more recently, streams. And if you've been raving and clubbing pre-pandemic, and if you've been online and seen his shows, then you all know exactly what I'm saying here. Nearly 14 feet underground with us tonight in the utility room. Please welcome to the show, Krafty Kuts.
Hey, buddy, how you doing?
I'm stoked to see you here, man.
that was a great intro. I love that. That was really, I'm like blown away. I'm like, wow.
Cheers. You're definitely a legend. I'm super excited to hear the story. When I read through the bio, I was like, I felt like this was like, it was like a timeline of point form. And I know that, I mean, you have been for decades traveling around our marble, delighting people left, right, and center. And I want to get into it. Like what made you want to scratch on turntables?
When I first started, I was at a breakdance club, and it was more like we were a little crew. I just discovered hip hop, and what we call in England car boot sales, which is where people sell all their junk from the house in the back of a car in a field, and I'd be buying records there, and I just discovered electro, the original electro, like Soul Sonic Force and Egyptian Lover and all that stuff, and early two-tone stuff, like the Specials, the Beat, the Jam, Madness, Dexy's Midnight Runners, all that sort of stuff. And then I started getting more into hip-hop and realising that was my forte, and learning to put a bit of body pop in and a bit of robot. I wasn't brilliant at the old breakdancing. The other guys were terrific at that. And we had the breakdance club. And I started bringing my records in and started playing them and, thinking, this is really good fun, playing music for other people. And then we used to have this other club that we used to go to, and we invited these DJs down from London, and they would cut beats. And I was like, oh, my God, this is blowing my mind. And that was it. And I was like, I want to be a DJ. So at the breakdance club, I was scratching a Beastie Boys album from a track called She's Crafty. And I was scratching that because it was quite a definite sort of sound. Crafty, she's crafty. And I was like, took out the she and just scratched this crafty. And then I thought, someone said, that's good. I like that. And I thought, maybe I should, call myself Krafty. But then I thought, I need something else. I need something afterwards, like Krafty Kuts, scratching, Krafty Kuts. Yeah, that's it. Bang. And that was born at the breakdance club many moons ago. And my love, I should start DJing for a regular. And I was just like a warm-up DJ. I used to go and tour with them. And Big Corporation, they were called. And I used to love it. And I used to play funk and hip-hop. And I just started to build my record collection up. And it was the first time I'd ever DJ'd, getting paid peanuts, like $50 and then I do before and then at the end. And I noticed people like really getting into it more than the band, but that is the vibe that was happening because, this was an upcoming band with no records out, nothing. They were just like a dub sort of reggae band. And I'm playing like proper good hip hop and funk tracks. And people were just getting down. The more I done it, the more of a buzz I got for it. And that I entered a DJ competition before that, and that was where I was hooked on because I wanted to DJ on Technics turntables. I only had belt drive turntables then, and I got to the final of this competition. There were like rounds, like in a soccer match, a competition, and you got knocked out, and the crowd voted for who they wanted to appear in the next round. and I got the cheers because I was like, you know what I'm like, and that's why I kind of grew my confidence to performing in front of people. And you know, all these little moments and build-ups and buying records at car boot sales. And once I bought about 10,000 records at a car boot sale collection, and this was the DJ of the South Coast. He was like, he got sent all these promos back in the day, so you can imagine what records he got back then. This was like when Prince was around and Madonna and Queen, and so there was a lot of rare records.
Vinyl pressings, releases singles with extended mixes.
Exactly. And there was a Prince record. There was Controversy, the 12-inch in the picture sleeve with the poster inside.
Ridiculous.
The poster was still inside, and it was a promo copy. So you can imagine how much more money it was worth. So I had all these records, and then I thought, you know what, I'm going to open up a record store. And I put all the records in there, started to gain a kind of encyclopedia from jazz, funk, disco, definitely hip hop, and rock, pop, psychedelic jazz, Queen. I got really, really knowledgeable about Queen. I used to found it quite fascinating, the Beatles and Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin. You know, that stuff could sell like till the cows come home, as the saying in England. It literally, you know, what person would want to have a Queen record as a collectible? And they were very collectible, and Guns N' Roses, and they used to do lots of coloured vinyls and picture discs and stuff, and Madonna and Prince and all this stuff. So I got quite a lot of people, good people, having the record store. I met Fatboy Slim, and I gave him an acetate of my record because he used to shop in my record and buy a lot of like funk and sampled stuff that he used. He actually bought from my shop. I think he's what was it? Gangster Trippin'. That I think he bought that from my record store.
Wow.
And became quite good friends with him. He came in one day and I played him a record that I just cut an acetate, which was Give Me the Funk, which was the original version of Give Me the Breaks that I'd done with A Skills, but it was full of samples. And he goes, I said, look, I think you might like this. And I played it to him, and he goes, wow, that's great. I love that. I said, why don't you have it? And on the other side was my intro, my DJ intro. And I was like, a bit sad to give that up. But I thought, listen, this is going to go to a better home. He's going to be playing for big audiences. And yeah, lo and behold, that was the defining moment in my career, because Ministry of Sound caught wind. They signed me. They contacted me, signed me, and Mixmag charted Fatboy Slim top 10 tracks, and that was in there. Give Me the Funk records. And they asked me, have I got any more records? This story really unfolds quite beautifully. And I said, I'll make some. Well, I didn't say that. I said, yeah, I've got some. I just got to finish them. I hadn't made any. I'd just made the one record. And that was when I just started making music. So you can imagine I had a record store. So all those records that I bought over the years in my record collection, thousands. So I was just like, what am I going to sample first? So it was just all like funk riffs and hip hop vocals and blah, blah, blah. And I made 3 EPs, and Ministry signed me for that. Was it. Krafty Kuts was born. And then the first EP, there was a track on there called Who Is It? And then I rechanged it to a track called Who's the Man? And it got licensed to a movie, a Guy Ritchie movie. And he was married to Madonna at the time. And that track was the opening scene to this track. So I went to the movie premiere, sat there in Leicester Square in London with Madonna, Claudia Schiffer, Guy Ritchie, Jason Statham, you name it, everyone was there. And there's little old me, nobody, with my ex-wife, sat there watching it. And I met Claudia Schiffer when I went to the toilet, and she's tall, man. She's a supermodel. She's like 6'2". And she was standing by the guys' toilets. And I said, that's the guys' toilets. And I said, what are you standing outside there for? And I laughed and joked with her, and we started having a conversation. And I was very nervous because she was a very attractive woman. And I realised this, and I was like, well, just play it cool. Just be yourself. Just come across as a nice guy. And lo and behold, you know, at the time, it just helped me, you know, with interacting with, you know, a lot of celebrities and famous people that I would be bumping into, like Tiesto and, you know, the Rolling Stones and whoever, where I was touring, Rage Against the Machine, Bjork, all these people that I'm meeting. And it's amazing how all these stories unfold. Meet like Cash Money, Jazzy Jeff, and I'd be DJing with these people and Grandmaster Flash on the same stages, touring with them on big tours and stuff. So, you know, I was just hooked with buying music and then getting my record store and then all these amazing throughout my adventurous and illustrious career that I had.
Absolutely fabulous. Often I'm making a remark, and I don't mean this in a bad way. I say it about myself, but I do feel this way about all of us, is that we're standing on the shoulders of those who came before us. I mean, the bricks were laid so that we're able to go ahead and walk on the road. And to know that you were at a place of where, you know, I'm assuming being a turntablist, you know, and coming up, for example, DJ Jazzy Jeff. I mean, like, yes, I want to rock with Fresh Prince. I mean, like, the single Boom, and then the video showing Jeff going at it. You know, this for me was, I remember the very, very first time I really felt commercially like, holy shit, look at that DJ go. And
On
this must have been
sorry,
incredible.
no,
Like, I
no,
mean,
no,
like,
you're right.
what was the vibe? Like, to know that you were now going through these places of where, you know, you moved from a place of where, you know, it was just strictly, you know, inspired, to now standing amongst those that were doing the inspiring.
It's the most unbelievable feeling going from pretty much, you know, just playing, cutting up records in my back bedroom with my ex-wife frowning for hearing cheap Good Times being cut up, double copies for hours on end, and her banging on the door going, "Shut up, will you stop scratching the same record all the time?"
Maybe you should have put on Guns N' Roses' Patience.
Yeah, good choice. But I just kept practicing and I entered DMC competitions. But the thing was, I wasn't good enough. And I don't ever claim to be in the level of like Scratch Bastards and Q-Berts and Mixed Master Mikes and Jazzy Jeff and Cash Money. But watching them inspired me and helped me, like, ideas and becoming a better DJ, like Fatboy Slim, his interaction with the crowd, and then taking some ideas of what Jazzy Jeff does, and then Cash Money and the way they switch music and you know, just DJing well and not trying to go over the top. And that's what Cash Money and Jazzy Jeff do. They don't scratch for like hours on end and just kind of bore people with too much cutting. They let the music, they do like nice little bits in between, and just they're great selectors and they're technically very gifted as well. And that's what I learned from them. Good selectors, but also bring in some of your skills. And so I was quite good at mixing records. And when I first used to start DJing, I would mix, you know, like Disney records or drop acapellas over tunes to enhance the sound, the sonics that you hear. And people say, "Oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's clever." You know, maybe I remember once I even mixed ABBA, Super Trooper, and Layla by, like, you know, and then I'd had like Anna Fisher Soul, how she boom, dong, 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 with this guitar riff underneath. People say, "What the bloody hell is he doing? That sounds good." And just like, and my idea of a good night would be starting slow and then building up the tempo till it gets fast to a crescendo at the end, like, you know, a little bit of a journey. And I take it down a little bit and then go back up a bit. And that's what I do in my DJ mixes, and I've always done that, you know, because I'm a multi-genre DJ. I mean, people do know me for breakbeat because, you know, I made a lot of breakbeat and I had a lot of success with breakbeat.
True.
But my humble beginnings were hip hop, and it's really nice recently that I can go back to those now that I'm actually working with, you know, good rappers like Dynamite, Charlie Tuna, Lyrics Born, and I'm working on my new album with a load of other people, which we'll talk about later. And I'm just really lucky the fact that I've still got an enthusiasm for it. I love DJing. I love watching other DJs play. I think the streaming has helped. It's funny, isn't it? That one bad thing, which, you know, put us all locked in our houses, has created something good. And that's what human beings are really great at, you know, creating something from nothing. you know, because we were locked in a house. What can we do? Oh, what can we do that's going to grab people's attention? Yeah, me and my son, we started streaming last year in March, right at the beginning of lockdown, and I didn't know anything about streaming. I hadn't a bloody clue. What do you have to do to stream? What equipment do you need? So he just said, look, let's just put the phone in front of the decks and just play music on Facebook, live on Facebook Live. I was like, all right, let's give it a go. And then we started in this bedroom, in this room where I am now, which is his bedroom actually. Now is his bedroom now, because it wasn't his bedroom first. And all the posters, and I've got a really nice console here, and we set the decks up and it looked great. But we didn't know what the hell we were doing, and it sounded terrible. And the view count was phenomenal. You're not going to believe this, right? So the first 3 weeks we done up here, 137,000 after 3 weeks. Then following day was the view count, and it was getting phenomenal reactions. And then people were saying, well, it's great, but it doesn't sound very good. So we then plugged the iPhone camera, which I was using, into the back of the mixer, which we thought was a good idea. In hindsight, not, because the microphone, it's a microphone plug. As soon as you plug that in, any high volume will just go cut it out. So then we discovered OBS and Restream, and then I started doing and Twitch, and then sort of June, July sort of time come. That was it, full scale every Friday night. Krafty Kuts, Future Flex, 9 to 11. My son was brilliant on the mic, and he was more into house music when he first started. And I'm not really predominantly a house guy. I love it, but it's not a Krafty Kuts genre of music that people associate me with. So I kind of, him hearing it and him being around it encouraged him, because Future Flex is a great DJ. He's also a very good producer. And it encouraged him to start writing music and making music. And he started playing breakbeats and DJing with me. And, you know, between the two of us, we became quite a cool little act that people looked forward to watching on Friday. And, that whole lockdown, that's what I've got on this T-shirt, the lockdown sessions, the Going Nowhere tour.
Going nowhere.
And we were going nowhere apart from, and then we took it downstairs into the kitchen, and it's such a laugh. It's such good DJing.
I would have maybe even some tour dates at the back of the shirt, but like every stop is the same venue. The dates change.
Yeah.
That's wild. But, being a DJ dad, before you got into it, did you think to yourself that whatever the child would be, that would one day be standing up next to you doing what you're doing? I mean, like, what is this joy? I'm assuming it's joy. I mean, I would imagine this to be joy.
Oh, it's the most amazing thing. I used to live in another place, in this house that I had, which is about just slightly nearer Brighton, and I had, funny enough, I had a garage that we converted into a DJ room, and I had my deck set up, brand new CDJ, and I was really busy then, so I had a nice little setup at home, and he used to come and stay with me because I split up with his mum, and because I got twin boys, and he was about 17 at the time, and I just said, look, go on the decks and have a practice, and I taught him a few things, and he just got a buzz for it straight away. Billy, his name is, Future Flex, and he then went on a music course at the college and taught himself how to write music and learn about the keys and notes on the keyboards and etc. And he started writing really cool music, and then I encouraged him to be a little bit more cleverer with your music, mix a cappellas, and I've taught him how to scratch. He's not brilliant at scratching, but he's good because it's an art form to scratching. It's like to be a really, really good scratcher, you've got to practice forever, hours and hours, and it's also something that's got to come naturally because you've got to move your hands really fast. I'm not very good at scratching. I can scratch, but I'm better at choosing records to mix with and blend, and maybe mixing 3 records together at the same time, kind of multitasking.
I'm on the other end of things here, so regardless of our relationship, here, now, then, the remix that you've done, this type of idea. I've seen you DJ. I'm going to strongly disagree with you. Okay. You can feel how you feel. I think it's great. So
yeah, I'm blessed that my son has got into music. My other son, he's property and stuff like that. He's doing really well. He's what we call estate agents. What do you call people who sell houses?
real estate.
Real estate. That's agent. What you call those. Yeah, yeah. He's a real estate agent, and he's doing really well, and he's happy, and he loves coming. He's into music. He loves coming to the shows with us. And I've got 2 little ones. I posted a video of my son the other day, bopping his head to a sort of gangster hip hop record that I remixed, and he loves my music as well. All my kids love my music because they've been surrounded. That is a beautiful feeling when you know your kids love your music.
I want to say it's probably an awesome vibe shift from being in a scenario before where you were with somebody that was perhaps banging on the door asking you not to discontinue the effort to now in this scenario that you're in currently where it's like, go, let's go. And joining in. It feels like you've kind of got the Incredibles kids happening or something, you know? And everyone's jumping in the family with their own superpower. Did you have?
Yeah,
I do. I'm a DJ dad as well. Just one though, just one. Okay. But there's conversation bubbling regarding the second one.
Right.
There's certainly a lot of practice for it. Thank God. So did you?
That's the best part.
Of course, it's one of my favorite parts. Did you have a favorite DJ mixer?
When I first started, it was the Phonic MRT60. That was a fantastic mixer. It was like, it had handles so you could lift it. It had switches on the top. It had an EQ on the top as well, big EQ thing. And you literally could just move it around. And it was like, you learned how to do the EQing then as well. And it was blue, black, and yellow. It had a really good lights and stuff on it. Crossfader was pretty good. It didn't have any levels of crossfader because this was an early mixer. And that was the mixer of choice for me because I wasn't really quick on switches and I could transform on the switches, but I couldn't transform on the crossfader. So I taught myself eventually to transform. But that was the same time as like the Gemini PMX, I think it was. But I think now I've got to say the Pioneer DJM 900 SRT mixer is the one. It's a fantastic mixer, and it's brilliant for scratch filters. It's got really good effects unit on it, and you can do everything on it pretty much. So, and because I've used the CDJs since they came out, I literally was one of the first DJs to get on them. Pioneer gave me some, and it was kind of like a something that I'd done straight away, and it saved me from carrying all those records abroad to Canada and Asia and Australia and America on tour when I'd go away for 3 or 4 weeks. And I didn't want to put my records through the carry. I wanted to take them on carry on. I didn't want to check them in because otherwise I'd lose those records,
That was a thing. It was the horror story in touring back in the day. If you were checking vinyl, you were kind of saying a bit of a prayer. And it was a mix-up of either perhaps the vinyl ended up in a different destination or perhaps somehow it just magically grew legs after it was checked in. But one thing that would happen is...
How strange is that?
Yeah, of course. And I'll tell you something. I'll jump in right now with a bit of a story. Back in 2015, I did a show I can't remember where I was coming from. I know I ended up in New York, played in New York. Next morning, woke up. I was with other people on tour. I had someone that was doing tour management for it. I had fast food or something right before bedtime and woke up and didn't feel very well. And right before they started boarding our flight, I had to run to the washroom, and then returning upon the gate, I had 2 bags with me on travel. One was for clothes, carry on, and the other one would be my laptop and my MIDI controllers, also carry on. and so I was not checking anything, and I just wasn't. I didn't have my wits about me, and I had my gear bag, but I didn't have my clothing bag, and for some reason or another, it was left at the terminal, right where I was about to board the plane. I get off the airplane and go to grab my bag, and the bag is not on the overhead, and it's not under my seat. Where's my bag? Return glance like, mm-mm. And I'm like, oh fuck, like that's all my clothes. And at the time, I was really stupid and buying very expensive jeans and stuff, and I was pretty distraught about losing the suitcase with, all this clothes that I'd stupidly spent money on. And I'll tell you, I called the airport, and the help desk wasn't very helpful. And this is still on my timeline. If you go through my Twitter, I think you'll probably find it, which is me tweeting the airport saying, if I told you right now that there was a bomb in that bag, would you find it then? And I'll tell you, my phone rang within minutes, Martin. Within minutes, my phone rang. Yeah, 100%. My phone rang. Yeah, describe what's in the bag. So I did. They're like, we have your bag. I'm like, yeah, send it to me.
No way.
True story. LaGuardia.
Fuck. That's
Yeah,
crazy
because
shit.
listen, and I'm saying this out loud. This is a utility room PSA. If an airline or an airport says that they've lost your shit in 2021, when everything is digital, how the fuck does that happen? Okay, just think about it. Think about how the process works in the process of checking.
Yeah.
From the moment that you actually hand your bag off to somebody, all the scanning, the tags, everything that's going on, with the amount of security and the amount of taxes that we pay to fly in and out of airports, don't lose my shit. That's all there is to it, okay? Because if you do, I'm gonna
Yes.
literally raise hell. It's just
That's clever manipulation.
it's a real question. It was a real question. So I felt like, and it deserved a real answer. And before you
Interesting.
knew it, I had that answer before me. So, and I did get the bag back.
Brilliant.
Yeah, which is great.
You did get the
I
bag
did.
back.
I got it back. It took about a week, but yeah, I got it back. I had to go shopping on
really
the various
good.
tour stops and stuff because I literally had nothing. And I wasn't trying to do any dating or anything at the time, so that's great. So the only person that really had to smell me was the promoter. And it was the clothes. So I do a lot of sweating when I'm performing. What gear did you use to make "Gimme the Funk"?
Using back then, that would have been Atari, just the basic sort of like music setup at the time, keyboard, couple of synths, but it was more sample based. So it would have been the Akai sampler. That would have been the S1000, I would imagine, at the time. And yeah, that the most sample in one record that I've ever made. That had everything. It had Jazzy Sensation, Can You Feel It? It had Gimme the Funk, KRS-One. It had The Breaks from Curtis Blow. It had it was about Super Lover, Seeing Casanova Rudd. I'm the one that does the Rockin' on the Sounds Legit. Oh my God, the list is endless. So a lot of my records back in the day were heavily sampled records because I couldn't get votes. That's why I always wanted to write hip hop, but I couldn't because I didn't have the money to pay for like big vocalists. And in the UK, all the good hip hop vocalists were all taken up. So, and who was this, geezer called Krafty Kuts? I'm not going to, work with him. Nobody really knew who I was, and I'd writing like dance, electronic music, and the whole trip hop scene and big beat scene was quite big back then as well. So pop wasn't quite as popular then, although I still loved it. It was more like the old hip hop that I liked, the early 90s sort of old school golden era hip hop. And I got to DJ for Jazzy Jeff once, and that was the first time that I met him. He was coming to Brighton to DJ, and the promoter said, "Do you want to warm up for Jazzy Jeff?" I was like, over the moon. He walked into my shop and said, "Look, I'm putting Jazzy Jeff on. Do you want to warm up for him? Because I know you like him." I was like, "Oh, that's really, really nice of you." So I felt for weeks, what can I play? And I didn't want to be one of these arsehole DJs who plays loads of classic hip hop before he goes on and just trying to get my moment in the sun. Yeah, I'm fucking good. I'm really cool, and like just play all the hits. No, I'm not about that, because I respect, other people's careers and what they're doing and where they come from. And also, I still wanted to make an impression. So I got loads of trip hop instrumentals, and I worked out a really cool set, and I brought my Pioneer 909 mixer, which might be in here somewhere, and he signed it for me. That was a good mixer as well. Fucking heavy. And I played like really like eclectic sort of like Wax, all that really early hip hop style records. DJ Shadow, who's that Japanese DJ?
Kanishi?
Who's on
is that right?
On Mo Wax.
Is it
I can't remember
Santoro?
what his name was.
No.
Might have been, yeah. And it'll come to me in a minute.
Okay, cheers, yeah.
And so I was playing all this really cool, like vibey sort of warm up stuff. And his tour manager was like, kept giving me the thumbs up, saying this is spot on. And then Jazzy came in for like the last 20 minutes, and the crowd are really hyped. It was packed, and the energy was just so good. And he come up to me afterwards, and he done a brilliant set, Jazzy Jeff, because as you know, as a DJ, if the warm up DJ and the crowd are with you, then when you play anything you play, if you're a good DJ, it's just going to go off like crazy. And he played a brilliant set. And he come up to me after, arm around me, and he goes, because I got a picture of him, and I'm really sweaty as well. I've got a green T-shirt on, and it's covered in sweat. And he goes, "Man, that was a great set. You got me in the vibe, Krafty, man." And that was it. We became friends. And I've DJed with him many times before, boards, tracks that I've made, and he always like gives me the thumbs up. He's been playing stuff in his street, Scratch Bastard and the Next Men and A Skills and a lot of other people. So it's lovely when people that you respect and you know are great DJs and that as well. And that was a special moment to hear such accolades from someone who I kind of eyed, really.
Did you feel a form of pressure with the follow-up singles for Ministry of Sound?
Do you know what? I didn't. I do now. It's weird. I do now when I've got to write music and follow up with music that I've wrote previously.
Why the change?
Never felt any pressure earlier on. I think it's harder to make music now than what it was back in the day, because back in the day when I first started making music, there was just, the world was mine, and I was one of only a few people making this sound. Whereas now everyone's making music, dare I say, a little bit throwaway. It's very in, out, shake it all about and on with the next. So it's like the longevity of music has gone, because when you used to buy a record back then, you'd have a sleeve, you'd have maybe photos, you'd have things to read about who co-produced or who wrote the record, or where it came from, when it was wrote, and the writers and the credits and everything. Especially on a mix CD, you'd information that you'd want to know about the artist. Nowadays, you just buy an MP3 or you just stream it. That's it. You don't see any photos. Sometimes you might be listening to an artist you don't even know what they look like. So when I used to make records, I was used to buy a product, and obviously because I sold records, people love that feeling of having something, and the better the sleeve, and it's just, when I first started making music, I just had so many ideas. My creative juices were just crazy. Just like, if you saw like a video and then you could put all loads of things behind me, like memes or whatever, and GIFs and stuff, it would just be like, a mathematician with all the letters and numbers throwing around, whereas mine would be like pictures of artists like Donald Byrd and Funkadelic and Parliament and James Brown, just all floating around in my head. And I just couldn't wait, and Cool in the Gang. I just couldn't wait to sample these artists and use them in my music. So can you hear me?
Yeah, no, I'm absolutely wild about your storytelling.
So that at the beginning, in the early days of writing music, it was just like a free for all. It was just like, and I just had so much scope to do things with. Whereas now you kind of like, it's not that you're limited, but the younger kids who are making music and stuff like that, it's a little bit like not so much of a caring attitude. It's like just go out there, and it's a little bit more raw, which is great. It's really good. But I think back in the day, there was more process. Like, you got to think of the artwork, the sleeve, and it took a lot longer to make music back then, as you know, because the equipment and just everything that you were using, just the process was a lot longer. To make a record would probably take like a month or two, whereas now it'd take a day.
Let's not disregard that process. For once it was submitted to the label, then they had to go into pressing and promo, and by the time the single was released, it could have been a year after you had made it, which is very different than now, which is, my master's done, and I'm like, away it goes.
I mean, when CDJs come out, I made a record, and literally that night I could play it on the CD. So that was the beauty of those. And when I used to do my club night with School of Supercharged, I'd sit in the studio all day with either Ed Solo or Chris Sargent at the time, writing music, and then I'd take it to the Funky Buddha Lounge where we play on a Wednesday night doing Supercharged. And I'd play Bass Phenomenon or Tell Me How You Feel or the Sandwiches remix that I'd done, or Ill Type Sound, or, whatever it was at the time. And I remember when I played Bass Phenomenon after I wrote it with Tim Deluxe, and the bass when it kicked in, because the sound system was pretty good in where we'd done. And I remember looking at Lloyd, and he goes, because he was obviously run the record label with me, Against the Grain and Supercharged. And he goes, Krafty, we got a winner. We got a winner. Done it, boy. And then the crowd just went mental. Everyone was like, what is this fucking track? Don't be funny with the Bass Phenomenon. And the bass kicked in and it boomed. And everyone was like coming up to me going, what is this tune? Pointing. And I was like, I knew something was big. And it nearly made the top 40 in the UK. It just was outside. And at that time, to do that on an independent record label was unheard of. But we had some major success with Against the Grain in Australia. The label was huge out there with the breakbeat singers, Matt.
Here in Toronto too. I mean, like, a release was coveted. That Finger Lickin', the same thing. Finger Lickin', the artwork on Finger Lickin' or Against the Grain. I mean, like, it was almost as much something to look forward to as the release. And I was going to ask, this is kind of besides it all, but earlier when you were doing your shopping at record stores, before you started working, before you started learning, about labels and artists and what to follow and where your likes were or weren't, did you ever have the bait and switch? Did you fall for it? Wow, great sleeve. I think the music's going to be this, and you come home and drop the record, and it's not what you wanted it to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you get that, especially when you go to other countries and there's record labels and the music scene's slightly different.
Right.
Like the UK scene, you kind of know what you're going to get. But when I used to go and buy like breakbeat tunes, let's say in Toronto or Florida, it would be a totally different sound. And sometimes there was that element of like, I wasn't expecting that. But then there'd come a period where you'd probably play it in a DJ mix or utilize it and get something out of it. I was pretty knowledgeable about the artists that were around, from Icy and all the guys from Toronto and Vancouver and some guys from Kikinobi in Australia and all the UK breakbeat scene and stuff like that. So I was pretty good at picking records, but it was a unique experience, and I think that making those records at that period of time was so much fun, because let me tell you, when the Plump DJs started making their music and things started happening, that's when the scene just went like that, and everyone was just like flabbergasted at how good the Plump DJs were. And if you play their records now, you realise how well produced those tunes are. They sound sonically phenomenal. Plump DJs and Freestylers, for me, were the two acts that just constantly knocked out monster after monster.
Agreed. I've got the Freestylers next week. I'm super stoked. When you guys in England, it felt like both drum and bass and breaks, the broken beat sound had some of its strongest evolution from the UK. And I'm wondering, were you guys aware of the record labels in Toronto, for example? I mean, or everywhere else, but I mean, I'm going to be specific about Toronto because this is where I'm at, you know, it's my city, yo. And we had
Big up Toronto.
cheers. We had Two Wars, we had Promo Records. I feel like I'm missing stuff. Were you aware of these labels, the artists that were releasing music? Were they being championed out there?
Yeah, they were, but not as big. But I was coming to Toronto quite a lot because I was playing for Demonic at System Sound Bar, and they were big events, as you know. Because I'm thinking you played at those, and there was like 12. I remember
you know, happily losing brain cells and feet pads. You know,
I remember the first or second time I came and played at System Sound Bar. Who's the guy that Dan used to do it with? What was the Asian guy? What was his name?
To be. I mean, like, I'm not sure. To be honest, I wasn't part of the promotion that Demonic was doing with Pure Funk, so I couldn't say. Pure Funk. I wasn't. I think I played. I only played for him once or twice because I wasn't necessarily a breaks DJ, and that's no fault to him. You know, he was trying to curate an idea and a sound for the night, and sometimes I fit it, and most times I didn't, which is cool.
Yeah. We played at System Sound Bar, and there was 1,200 people, and I was like, "Wow, there's a good scene in Toronto." Yeah. And I never really went over to Vancouver. It's quite weird because I was like, "Why?" And then eventually, when I did, I was like, "Wow, this city's even more incredible in terms of, like, you know, the mountains and the scenery and
BC's gorgeous, man. Did you?
Yeah, it's amazing.
Were you hitting clubs?
Like, I didn't realize.
Sorry. Were you hitting clubs in on mainland in Vancouver? Were you going to the island? What came first? Was Shambhala first?
Yeah, Shambhala was first. It was because it was like 2003, and then that was it. Bang, Vancouver and Twisted Promotions, which was Craig Doherty and Azim. They put me on, and they put some really good parties on. And I DJ'd with Armin van Buren at Plaza of Nations, and there was like 5,000 people there. And I was DJing in the second room, which had about 1,000 people in. And I remember, I'm trying to think who else was there, but there was a lot of really good acts, and it was a really good event. And then there was another guy there in Vancouver, actually, who put me on. And then Shambhala come actually before then, and both Toronto and Vancouver. There was nothing in between. There wasn't anything in Montreal. There wasn't anything in Saskatoon. There was little things going on in Edmonton and Calgary. The small town DJs had something going on in Calgary at a later date. But for me, Canada, Australia, Spain, and the UK were the four meccas of breakbeat around the world.
Spain,
Florida, yeah, Spain was huge,
wow.
But that was a different type of scene in Spain. In south of Spain, fast, hard, crazy. That's all I can say. Those words: fast, hard, and crazy.
I want to go.
Make a movie out of that.
I want to
go. And Australia was just ridiculous. You know, it's like 30, 40, 50,000 people getting off to breakbeats. There wasn't just breakbeats, because there was obviously, like, when I played on Tryout, there was like Rage Against the Machine, Bjork, Carl Cox, Dizzy Rascal, LCD Sound System. The lineup was incredible.
Party time.
And they went mental when I put some really good tunes on. And you know, I played some really cool festivals. Electric Daisy Carnival in Los Angeles, like 20, pretty dope. But it's not the amount, it's just the vibe. And you create that vibe with your music and your selection and your energy behind the decks, and being clever and being like, try things and be, you know, bold. Bold is a really good thing to be. If you can be, you know, I remember back then, in front of all those people, I had no visuals, I had no dancers, I had no crazy outfits. I was just me behind the decks with vinyl and a wallet of CDs. So I was touring, playing big festivals and closing big festivals because of my music and what I was playing. And I think that I look back and think, you know, to what we are now, where it's all about the production, it's all about the visuals, and it's not so much about how good the DJ technically is. Not that that makes any difference, because, you know, it's interesting to see someone who's got really good visuals and who can play, you know, big tunes, you know, and who make big tunes that, like, the world knows. Because I wasn't making big tunes that the world knows. I was playing big tunes that the world knows, but they were with a crafty element, because I might have edited them or remixed them or bootlegged them or cleverly mixed parts of those, entice people to think, I just heard the Prodigy, that was clever, and then maybe get the original out of space by was it Jar? No, that's Jar Screechy was Walking Skank. I play the original and then mix in the Prodigy version, and people are like blown away at the time. And these are the things that you can do: get creative with the music and stuff like that.
Do you have a favorite tour moment in Canada? Something that you're thinking back that you can recall on that gives you some strong juice?
Oh, there's too many. I think Shambhala, when I played Bass Phenomenon on the what stage is it? So you've got the Fractal Forest. What's the big one where the sound system's just ridiculous?
I've done Shambhala once when I played, 2001 or 2002.
The Village. Sorry,
I think I do that. There's Village, Pagoda, and I don't know the rest of the stages' names, unfortunately.
Yeah, I played the Village stage, and it's on YouTube. You can see the clip. And I just made Bass Phenomenon, so it just come out, and everyone was ready for me to play that track, because the whole Canadian knew about that record, and they were all about sound systems. They're all about that sonic, that sound, and the PK sound was just, it's always been unique. And I dropped that, and the bass kicked in, and everyone's on stage. You can see all the dancers, and you can see all the visuals where they're dancing behind the visuals, and you can see the image of a girl just kind of like dancing like that, and then everyone dancing on stage. And that moment when I dropped that was pretty bloody special. And Jade at Shambhala in a tree trunk in the Fractal Forest was pretty epic as well. And I played 2 hours on a really crap mixer inside this tree trunk. And I remember someone come up to me years later in Australia and gave me a VHS cassette and goes, here's your set, here's your 2 hour set. I videoed the whole set for you at Shambhala. Here, I've made a copy for you.
How fucking wild is that?
Me. And I watched it, and I thought at the time, that's going to be shit, because I was, you know, pretty wasted. I was like, you know, I was DJing on a mixer that wasn't really the mixer of my choice. And it was dark. There was not much room. There was a lot of people jumping onto the decks, hugging, shouting, saying this. I thought I might have mixed a few mixes. No, I was vibing, and the mix sounded really good, and the energy levels were fantastic. So I saw the Northern Lights that year as well in Canada, at Shambhala. So what a wicked experience. My first experience of Shambhala, I met, like, you know, all the top dogs who came on to be really popular. And I camped for the first time at a festival. I saw the Northern Lights, and I got to play there more often and make new friends. In Canada, you know, I met 2 girls in Canada who I loved and shared really good times with. So Canada's got like a special place in my heart. Not only have I got really good friends, I've met girls that I've fallen in love with, and I've met and then played at festivals that I love dearly too. So Canada is probably, I've got some of my best friends in the world. It's probably my favorite place in the world, really. If someone said to me, you got to choose a place where you're going to stay for the rest of your life, I'd probably choose Canada, probably, you know, British Columbia.
Yeah.
I would.
BC for sure.
I love you guys. You guys
we love you back.
You know how to appreciate good music, and the women are crazy out there, and you know the food is just ridiculous.
In BC,
food is ridiculous.
And Montreal, I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah.
Toronto's got some stuff. Do you feel that touring changed your ideas about music, your music?
Do you know, that's a really good question. No one's ever asked me that. That's a really good question, because that can mean a lot of different things, because you could be touring and be influenced by what other people play, and it could change your direction of where you're going musically. So that's a really good question. It did change me tour, and if I was like hearing other things, I think maybe when I get back, I need to make some music like that. So it helped me move with the times, because if you stay stale and keep making the same shit all the time, and you've got one sound, people will get bored of it eventually. People will get bored of it. The same sound, the same old shit. It's just like, oh, not that sound again. You got to like be creative, be inventive. And I was inspired by certain aspects that I hear. You know, the electro sound, a bit of the dubstep sound, a bit of like hip hop, a bit of the housey disco flavour. Bring that into your music. It's like making a good curry, isn't it? You keep mixing that up in the pot, it's going to taste better, and the more ingredients you add, you know, if it's just quite bland, that's where you haven't, you know, not mixing it up. You're not creating that magic, that flavor that people go, that's the shit I'm talking about. So with injections of like really clever musicians that you hear, and artists and DJs, and even people and places that you go to see, you can be inspired by the ocean, by the mountains, by animals, by, you know, and generally artists, other DJs playing music. Think, wow, that sounds fucking dope. So yeah, that's helped me keep my feet on the ground and be unique and clever and better, definitely.
Here's the moment in the show, Krafty, where I'm going to put you in the hot seat.
Oh, here we go.
You've got 3 records. The records that you know that you love, they're a part of you. They're a part of your soul. They express how you feel. They're either records that you use to rescue your dance floor at a time of need, or they're records that you're just going to use because it's in a place where it fits in and it's just, let's go. What are these 3 records?
That's hard. Probably no particular order. I would say The Prodigy, Breathe, or Outer Space. Got to be one of those two. It's really tough. Breathe, probably, because Outer Space, yeah, probably Breathe, simply because I love that down, 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 down. Breathe with me. It's just that's ridiculous. That's a heavyweight hitter. There's a record, the Funkadelic record, Not Just Knee Deep. There's been some bootlegs of that, and there was a Chris Lorenzo version that he done, Me, Myself, and I, and because I love that record, that to me that just reminds me of the happiness that's created and the magic on the dance floor. So that version, the Chris Lorenzo bootleg of Me, Myself, and I, is just really, really good. And let's be honest, right? I only say this, it's an obvious choice, but I've had unique experiences with this record. So House of Pain, Jump Around, has, in its own original format, has created memories and crazy moments just playing it at a house party from when I first started DJing, or in the middle of a set where I wanted to change things around. But what I'd done, being crafty, is I developed my own versions, and that's what I do. Like say, like a Guns N' Roses record, Sweet Child of Mine, or whatever it be, you know, Groove Armada, Super Styling, you know, School of Thought done its bootleg mix, which was just mental, absolutely crazy. But House of Pain, Jump Around, when I used to go on tour, and when I played the Big Day Out tour, that was the one. Me and Dynamite would play that record. But I had a bootleg version, so it was breakbeat, and it come in and it was all cut up, and then in the middle it'd go did. So it'd go from 126 down to the original tempo. And because people kind of thought they were hearing something they knew before, and then when it did come in and Dynamite was on the mic going, no, not yet, wait, jump, jump, jump. And when it come in, people went mental. And I remember in Perth, we were just about to play it. It was just coming up because we had an hour where we do our set. And it was just about to come on, and then people climbed onto these shipping containers. So the music had to get us, and everyone was chucking bottles at them and stuff, saying, "Get down from the decks." And I was like, "Oh shit, what are we going to do?" So when we started the music again, that was the track that we started with, and the crowd just went mental. I've never seen anything like it because everyone wanted to rage and party again, and that record just was momentous. So, you know, House of Pain, you know, in both formats, the original and the bootleg version, and then the Funkadelic revamped version by Chris Lorenzo, which is it's basically a pumped up version of the original with just the and I just love that track in itself. And then obviously Breathe, the Prodigy. They're just three records that are just huge. And you know, I could talk about records that meant gave me certain memories or that I personally love. But those records that I choose for me as a DJ have spread love worldwide. You know, people will remember me playing that House of Pain record. If they were at the big day out, they will remember that.
Awesome sauce. Tell us about the new album. What's going on?
Right. So during lockdown with streaming, I've stopped doing the streaming for a little bit now, but I've done it for a whole year through lockdown. I've done 50, I think I've done 56 weeks in the end. And then I said, look, I need to take a break, folks, because it's imagine doing a new DJ set every single week. Like when you stream, you can't play the same records that you played last week. People are like, well, he played that last week. You know, surely he's got to change it up. It was exhausting, you know, and it was mentally exhausting, physically
It's like
exhausting.
being on
Because
tour without leaving the house.
Yeah. My eyes were getting dry and bad because I was staring at a screen for 10 hours a day for like 3-4 days a week.
Man, I'm with you.
So I needed a break. So everyone was understanding. And the last stream that I done for my Friday nights was emotional. You know, there was tears. But it was memorable. That doesn't mean to say I'm not going to do it, because I am going to do it again. But I thought I'd take a break, go back. And in between streaming, I was writing music. I was writing 2 albums. One was a remix album. I'd done an album with Charlie Tuna called Adventures of a Reluctant Superhero, which was a hip-hop album, which featured like Gift of Gab, Lyrics Born, Dynamite MC, Morcheeba, Sky from Morcheeba, and a host of other acts. And I've always wanted to write a hip-hop album. So I'd done the Freak Show, Let's Ride, Tricky Technology, all 4 corners with Dynamite. So my 5th album was gold for me. My Charlie, to write album tracks with Charlie Tuna was just, you know, unbelievable. Jurassic 5, legend, hero, amazing guy, brilliant graffiti writer, such a knowledgeable guy. So I wrote the album together and we were touring left, right and centre. We'd done about 250 dates in the space of like 2 years. We were everywhere, every festival, every really cool festival, unique club shows around Europe and everywhere. And so I thought during lockdown, I thought, you know what, I'm going to go back in and remix that album because there's always little bits and pieces that I wanted to change. So during streaming, I started remixing some of those tracks. And then I thought, you know what, I'm going to write another hip hop album. I know all these people now. So I started hitting up Lyrics Born, done a couple of tracks with Charlie, done a track with Fatlet from the Far Side. I've done on this new album. So I've done some wicked collabs. And also Kurt Kazal or QNC, who were JVC Force, who done Strong Island. I've done a track with them. My God, it's fucking sick. It's like jazz on acid in hip hop style. It's just ridiculous. It's just like cut up, and there's really good elements and the rap is just sick. So I've been writing 2 albums, the remixing the Further Adventures. So it's still kind of writing another album. So I've remixed all 15 tracks. Not quite finished yet, just got to master it and mix it down and tweak a few bits. And then the new album that I'm writing, I'm going to call it yet. That's got about 10 tracks. It's pretty sweet. Oh, I've done a 6-track EP for Westwood, Canadian label. Big shout out to the Funk Hunters, Nick and Dunks, and all the crew on there, the Sticky Buds and K-Lab and Megan Hamilton and D-Funk, and the list is endless. Fantastic label. So I've done 6 electronic hip-hop tracks, electronic tracks with them, which verge on a little bit of hip-hop, some breakbeat, some future funk. And I'm really excited about the EP for Westwood because there's 2 tracks that are pretty awesome in terms of, like, there's one with Foreign Beggars and one with MC Spider. Ridiculous. 115 BPM, new shit, new style, new sound, insane. And I've got to tweak them, but they're pretty good. So, Further Adventures of a Reluctant Superhero album, the new hip hop album that I'm working on, 6-track EP for Westwood, loads of singles for Instant Vibes, which is my record label, a few remixes, few records for some Spanish labels. There's another one for maybe Toast and Jam, and there's another one for maybe Rave Star, and there's a few remixes. There's my Bandcamp. So I've never been so creative in the studio. It's insane, but I think I've found a sound that is working for me, where one week I can write a future funk record, one week I can write a hip hop record, and then a breakbeat tune. So it's really nice to kind of be quite excited about my music again.
Incredible. It sounds exciting just by the description. We all want to hear it. Please finish up.
I can't wait to unleash this music. I've just set up my Patreon, so that's going to be ready to go as from next week. And then I've got new material going on my Bandcamp every month. I've got a new one going up there this month, which is pretty smoking, which I'm really excited about. And the artwork for the next album, because the artwork has always been a big point of mine, like Trick Technology. Do you remember the artwork for Trick Technology with all the artists in the little squares? There was TC Islam, Real Elements, A Skills, Curtis Blow, Dr. Luke, and myself, and Yolanda, and all these little artists had all their little. And then the Adventures album with Charlie was just ridiculous, like superheroes, and it was just like, because that album, was called The Adventures of a Reluctant Superhero. So we were reluctant superheroes. And because I've done loads of remixes, the new characters that they've involved in, who've done also some other remixes, like the Gaff has done a remix, Blundetta, DJ Spinner, there's some house remixes. There's all sorts of remixes that are coming out as singles, and then the album's going to be repackaged with just my remixes on. So a lot of good, exciting times for Krafty Kuts ahead in the next year for sure.
Awesome. Looking forward to the finish of 2021 and into 2022. So the adventures continue, and they've been truly magical to hear about. Thank you for being with us. Incredible storytelling. I've been wrapped up in it. Any shouts out before we?
Thanks, man.
Any shouts out before we end our first date?
Obviously I've got a fond love from all my Canadian people, not just in, one area, from Toronto to Saskatoon, Calgary, Edmonton, Nick Degree, and all the crew from there. And Farbsy Funk, big shout out to him in Toronto, and Jay Cleary in New York, and Craig Doherty and Azim and Tyler Craig in Vancouver, and then you've got Sticky Buds in Calgary, and then Funk Hunters in Victoria and Vancouver. Oh my God, the list is endless. A big love to just all my Canadian crew. I love you guys. If I could spend all the time I could out there, I'd be joining you. The sushi's incredible. The views and the wildlife is incredible. Nelson, BC is like one of my favorite places to go to. It's just a wonderland, isn't it?
Sure is. And so has been this episode with you. Thanks very much, all y'all out there. Thank you very much for tuning on in. Like, comment, subscribe, share, rate, do all the things that make Utility Room go boom in the room. And we will see you soon. Hey, Krafty Kuts. utility room. You awesome sauce. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week for freestyle.